Welcome, everyone, to the newest installment of Hidden Variables podcast with Deb Shakti. I'm Deb Shakti, your host, and today it is my great pleasure to introduce you to someone I consider a soul space star sister, Sev Tok. Sev, thank you for coming and being on Hidden Variables. I want to go into your bio a little bit here, but I just want to say thank you for being on the show and welcome.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me. When you asked me, I was so happy. I've been looking forward to this very much.
Oh, me too. I just think you're wonderful. But for people who I can't imagine there's anybody out there who's watching this podcast now who does not know who you are, but just in case, I want to let people know that you're a very prolific speaker on the conference circuits now. You go to all of the big UFO and experiencer conferences, sci-fi stuff. You're a beautiful author. Your book is one of the nicest books I've ever read. It's so beautiful, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. You work incessantly and unceasingly with experiencers. You're originally from Istanbul, Turkey. And I can't say it right now. I know they've changed the spelling back to the old spelling, haven't they, for Turkey? Turkey? I can't say.
Yeah, I can't believe you know that one.
Yeah. Oh, well, other than Jimmy Church, I'm probably Turkey's best fan because of Göbekli Tepe and now all of the other tepes that are being uncovered.
Have you been to Göbekli Tepe?
No, I haven't, but it is number one.
We should go together. I can be your tour guide or your interpreter because I know Turkish. It was my first language.
We will go because that would be like the biggest dream come true to actually go there with you. But yeah, and I think one of the things that really impressed me when I was just reading your simple bio is that you moved to the United States with your parents when you were a little girl and you didn't know English, and yet you just went right into school not knowing English. So talk about being alienated from the get-go,
It's felt, yeah.
So. But you took right off after first grade. You went on to earn a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Loyola University. 2017, you moved to the Inner Banks of North Carolina, beautiful place, and had a life-altering experience. You came face to face with Grays, who, this is the most incredible story, who burned two large red X's made out of equidistant dots, by the way, on each glute.
There it is.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
So, I see a lot of marks, and I've had marks myself, as have my husband, but I've never seen them with those equidistant dots. Sometimes we get triangles with dots, and often I get a red heart, which is really kind of funny. I get a heart, like it's like a stamp, but yours were on a place that you couldn't see yourself unless you're looking at your hiney in the mirror, right? So, the person you were living with at the time eventually saw it and told you.
That's because I felt something. It felt like a bug bit me, so I asked him to take a look at it.
Aha. Okay. So we will get to that because that's a really fascinating story. But these two big red X marks on your glutes, for those of you who are not into anatomy, on your booty cheeks, it was probably I would think probably a moment of great clarity of I can never go back into cognitive dissonance about what's been happening in my life. This is real. You can't hide from it anymore. But eventually, your contact, you say, started at age 10, your conscious contact, right? But eventually you did come out in 2018 as a speaker at AlienCon, and through your book, which is so beautiful, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. There's so much more here that we'll talk about, all of your accolades, your absolute wonderful rise to high visibility in our community. But it's because I believe not just your hard work and your openness, but because of your heart. I think people feel your heart and they want to be part of you. So welcome once
That
again, Miss Sev Tok, to this.
got me all teary-eyed. You are so generous. Thank you.
Well, I
Yeah.
just think you're amazing. And so what I want to do is just get into it by saying, start from where you want to start, and we'll just flow there. This is like two friends, sitting in the living room having a deep discussion. And this is how I like to flow. So we're just gonna let it go and take it away, Miss Sev.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with my first conscious memories of ET contact when I was 10.
Mhm.
I like your cup.
That's a gift from a client. It's very old, but I think it's hilarious. I always forget I'm drinking out of it. Sorry.
I was 10 and I was living in the Washington, D.C. suburbs.
Mhm.
And so I started first grade not knowing English. When my parents and I left Istanbul, I was a year old, and my parents, they gave up a really cushy, high society lifestyle. And first we went to Canada, to Montreal, where my sister was born, and then we came to the DC area.
Wow.
And so I learned English in first grade and by watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street, and I taught my parents English, and I learned it very quickly at that age. Like September, I went to school not knowing anything, and in December, it was Christmas time, and so we're doing these Christmas crafts, and we're making this. I went to a private school. My parents put me in a private school because I didn't know the language,
Yeah.
and uh, we're making a little Jesus like in this glass jar. And
Uh-huh.
I have no idea what Jesus is or Christmas is, nothing. I know nothing.
Well, yeah, that's not even.
The kids, who's Jesus? And they're telling me, and I can understand them. And I had just started learning English just a few months prior. That's how fast we can learn when we're little. And
Mm.
they said he's the son of God. I'm like, who's God? And so these are little, 7-year-olds telling me this. And
Wow.
then they told me about Santa Claus and the Christmas tree and he flies with reindeer. And, logically, I'm like, that's nonsense. I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. So I never believed in Santa Claus ever because I learned it like, in first grade, kind of
Right.
in a very logical manner.
Like a fairy tale, right?
But yeah, but I was just like, there is no Santa Claus. I knew my parents were getting the toys from Toys R Us and all of that. So I didn't
Yeah.
believe. So, okay. So now I'm 10 years old. And for 2 years, from 10 to 12, I would find myself outside at night and in the grass, and I would watch a spaceship coming towards me. And each time it came from a different direction. And each time I would be so happy. Yay. Because it felt like a relative.
Yeah.
And it would come and it would hover over me, and it was so big that it completely blocked out the sky. And then it would land, and stairs would descend, and this being would walk down. And he was more human than not. He had really black, dark hair and a dark unitard or just a dark outfit.
Mhm.
And he was just checking up on me. He was making sure I was okay. And I loved him. I loved him so much. And then after each visit, I would ding, find myself in my bedroom because that's what it feels like when you're dropped into this
Yes.
reality from ET contact. There's no grogginess. It's like you're dropped and your eyes are open and you're completely alert. That's how you know that you're not coming out of a dream.
I have heard you describe this before, and you're the only person I've ever heard describe it that way other than myself. And it
Oh,
is spot on. It's like you are coming from another experience, and suddenly everything is you've just switched. It's like, have you ever been under anesthesia and then come out and suddenly you're just like,
yeah.
that's what it's like.
Yeah.
But that reality feels more real than this reality.
And that's what I would tell myself. I would be so confused. I'm in fifth grade, I think, when you're 10. And I would say to myself, this does not feel real.
Yeah.
My space brother feels real. And
Yes.
then I would tell myself, all right, I just have to forget about it and get dressed and go to fifth grade and try to be normal.
Mm.
And so I'm trying to be normal with these experiences. And I'm not telling my parents, even though they were believers and totally supportive, I told nobody up until really a few years ago. And
Wow.
so this continued for 2 years. And the last visit was very different because this time I was lined up with a group of kids, and I
Ah.
had never been with kids before. And I don't remember their faces, but we were all about the same height. And we were watching the spaceship go away, and we were really sad because we knew we weren't going to see him again.
Oh
That's
man.
when I heard in my head, okay, you have work to do. You're
Mm.
real.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what that meant at 12 years old.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting to understand it better, I think. I'm also wondering if I've met any of those kids or if I'm going to meet any of those kids. I wonder about that. Are you one?
I think that's our connection. I'm almost sure of it. I've been almost sure of it for a couple of years, especially after hearing you speak about this. I go back and I'm like, I revisit it and I'm like, I know that's who she is. You're one of the kids in the what Whitley Strieber calls the secret school. You know, you were there and I was there, and I don't want to presume, but I have I think that's the connection that I feel with you is you're one of those kids, and we were shown many things and taught many things so that we could help the planet and help our world, help our fellow humans. And
Yes. Okay, so I'm like silently flipping out.
well, I am too. I can't believe I'm saying it out loud because it sounds so pretentious. But
Well, but for those of us who go by our feelings and our gut instincts and the actual physiological changes in the body when you hear the truth, like
yeah,
some of us hear the truth in different parts of our bodies. When
yes.
I hear the truth, my thighs tingle.
Yeah. Oh my
That's
gosh,
how I
that's amazing.
you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I get it too. That's so crazy. And I get this little because probably because I've been a yogi most of my life, I get when I hear something like this and it's true,
Yeah.
or right before I get visited by
Yes,
the
my
beings,
thighs tingle.
I
Right.
get I get that, and I get a little whoop kundalini thing going up my spine. So
Yeah.
I can be outside with a big group doing a contact event, and something comes through the sky, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, and it's not on any of the apps, and they're like, look, it's real. And I don't have that feeling. I say, I think it's probably man-made. And sure as shooting, eventually it shows up on an app, or you hear a sound that, and you can tell that it's, like a jet or a drone or something. But if it's our friends, our star family, I get those signs, and then I know even before I check, and I always do. I check a lot of apps, I check flight patterns, I check all kinds of things so that people will understand. A lot of what you see in the sky is
Yeah.
not
Explain.
easy, unfortunately, but it's good to be able to discern. But yeah, I get body stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I usually it's an I don't know, you might be the first one that told me that your thighs tingle too. And sometimes before a visit, it's so intense that it's almost hurting. It's almost to the point where if it went any stronger, it was going to be painful. That's
yeah,
how much it tingles. Yeah.
yeah. Have you ever had like I don't know, maybe I came up through a lot of science my whole life. I was really into science, and then went into clinical psych and all of that. And I do I'm studying neurobiology now. But have you ever like done any experimentation like with just a little electrode, and you first it's a little tiny tingle, then you up it up a little bit more and a little bit more until you find your threshold, right? Your pain threshold. Sometimes it is like that, especially if it's very impactful, if it's something you really need to pay attention to,
Yeah.
put all of your attention here. That's that feeling. Like I have electrodes on my thighs, and if you put it up one more notch, I'm going to freak out, but it doesn't ever go that way. But it's just to, it's a message. It's like a post-it note. Here's what you're supposed to look at. Pay
Yeah.
attention to it fully.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And why the thighs? I think it has something to do with that chakra area, really.
mhm.
Why my thighs? Because other people feel it in different parts of their bodies.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
I feel it in my heart too, but I don't feel pain. I feel super warm. My heart rate goes down usually. It's really slow and everything starts to go slow motion for me. But that's when I know it's really going to be like a really benevolent, like something wonderful is going to happen. So, and I think, I talk to people a lot because I have all these side gifts and you do too. And a lot of our experiencers that we work with do. I think the side gifts are informed by our physical sensory gifts. They're heightened more than what, like your next door neighbor's sensory input might not be quite as turned up as high. But you would subconsciously, I think we see on the broader spectrum. I think you and I were talking about this before we came on. When your vibrational state is much higher, your perceptive abilities are more broadened, right? So you hear things that you don't even realize you're hearing. And we call it sensing, right? We think I really think that's a good part of what intuition is. It's just we're more finely calibrated to our sensory, not just our physical senses, but I think they really help. So we can see colors that other people might not be able to, or nuance anyway. Smell things like pheromones, even that other people don't smell consciously. For me, sadly, these last few years, I can be around someone who is very ill and may not even know it, but I can smell it, and immediately the message comes. There's a correlation there. Oh, that person's has an illness, and it's kind of difficult to. I don't just walk up to them and say, you have an illness, you need to do this. I would never do that. But if they ever came to me for therapy or a consultation and asked if I sent something, I mean, it's not just in proximity. Like I could smell it from, if you and I are talking like this in a session, I could smell you, and conversely, I can smell when people have extra joyful things happening. And yeah, it's been fun to people, ask, I've been trying to get pregnant for a long time. I think I might be, but it's too early to test. Am I? And immediately I can smell a baby. So isn't that weird? And it's always been right.
Wow, smelling a baby.
Yeah.
Pregnant or not.
Yeah. So it's indescribable. It's ineffable. It's not something I can put to words like, what is it that I smell, or how different is it? It's just, it's a knowing, but it comes through my olfactory senses, which is bizarre. So,
Okay.
so anyway, back to you. This isn't one about me. I just wondered if you had any of that, or maybe now that you've heard me say it, since I think we went to the same school, at least part-time, when we were kids, maybe start paying attention to when your thighs tinkle like that, ask your body, do a body scan and see if you're getting any other kind of sensory stuff. And then maybe jot it down and track that. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. So continue, please. Oh my God.
No, that was good. Where should I continue from?
Well,
My last visit when I was 12.
yeah.
Okay. And I was told that I have work to do, and I didn't know what that meant. So fast forward decades, and I continued to have ET contact, but I saw it more through the supernatural lens.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really calling it ET, more, I had a lot of supernatural activities. And my psychic abilities were being strengthened, were strengthening. And I think maybe some of that is because I didn't know English. So I think I really relied on my extrasensory abilities to kind of understand what people were saying, kind of understand the mood in the room, because I couldn't understand anything that was being said. So I think that's one reason that my psi abilities were strengthened. It could also very well be because of the ETs, because that is one of the things that they do. They do help people strengthen their psi abilities.
Yeah.
And so I started doing soul purpose sessions, soul purpose readings, where it's just interdimensional information that I hear, feel, and see. We can all do this. We can
I
all do
know.
it. It just takes practice.
Yep.
And so what comes through is the why you're here, your purpose, and how you can manifest it, and what your best career paths are, and how you can manifest them, and what a mental block, we all have them, is that just prevents you from progress or success. And we discuss that and how you can maneuver around it. A past life comes up that explains something that's going on now. And I've been doing these for about 14 years, and I really enjoy them with clients around the world. And then I also offer support sessions too. So basically, the session provides for you like a blueprint on how to be happy. What do you need in your life to be happy? Let's get it done. What's your career? What does your life look like? What are you doing? All of that. And it's never too late to do that. And so I try to help people be as happy as possible, and that makes me happy. So I did that for about a decade, and then all of a sudden, I moved here to North Carolina from Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., where I had ET contact. I had a lot of ET contact in Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and I also had something really strange happen in Roswell, New Mexico, with an ex of mine, where I was given information about the hybridization program. And then I had those two blue beings come into my living room I was telling you about.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I was in denial about just about everything, and I was also in fear of the grays. Now, I don't know why, because
Okay.
I did not have any conscious memory of ever encountering a gray, but I was afraid of them my whole entire life, to the point where I couldn't read about them. I couldn't see them on TV or in movies. The cover of Whitley Strieber's book, forget about it. And I like to say that his book is therapy, because I can look at it now and
Yeah.
I want to run out of the room. And literally, that's how I knew that I had processed my fear of the grays, when I could look at Whitley's book. That was my sign. But why was I afraid of them? It was all me. It was
I've
my.
always I've always wanted to ask you that because I've heard you say this in other interviews that you were terrified of the grays, and yet your first conscious experiences were so lovely with this space brother.
Yeah, but it wasn't a gray.
Right. So it just makes me wonder, did you have some kind of intervention with a bunch of grays at some point, or was it your own fears that were built on indoctrinated information from Hollywood and the government about the grays, because we grew up with things like that, right? So what do you think? I mean, do you still feel that way about the
Oh
grays?
no, oh no, I've completely changed my mind.
Yeah,
They were
good.
helping me the whole time.
Yeah.
But back then, I viewed my life through the lens of victimization. I was like the number one victim on earth. My ex-husbands were abusive, and oh, I'm a victim of them. I'm a victim of everything that goes bad. It's not, everything's out of my control. That's how I live. So if my ex-husbands are abusing me, the grays are abusing me too. Why not? That's how I viewed everything. But
Well,
who helped me pop out of the victim vibe were the grays themselves. They helped me change my perspective, and I'm like, they've been helping me the whole time. Yeah.
what you're speaking of is harmonic resonance, right? If you are in a state of, let's just talk about your situation. You were in a state of victimhood. You felt victimized by this person and that experience and da da da. Then that's where your vibrational state is. And thus, that is what your perception of the whole of reality is going to be about, because the universe gives you what you are vibrationally.
Right. And so I teach people how to make contact with otherworldly beings. And
Mhm.
we work a lot on the vibe. The vibe
Yeah,
has to be
that
high
first.
because
Yeah.
you're going to align with like energies, not only on Earth, but when you travel off Earth.
Yeah.
This holds true for wherever you go. If you want some new space friends, I urge you to go with a really high vibe.
Yeah.
Or you're going to align, and many of us have aligned with a lower frequency being, and we view them as evil and bad and scary. Whereas I don't really know if they are. They're just a lower vibe, and it just doesn't feel good.
Can feel unpleasant, right? And then it builds into our own baggage of fear that we've been carrying around, from past experiences. I do the same thing. When we go out to do these contact experience or trainings or CE5 trainings and all of this, that's the very first thing. We spend hours a day and then practice at night before we ever do the thing, getting the vibrational state high and becoming coherent, heart coherent, and then raising that whole group's vibe.
Yes.
Because if we don't, you may not even make contact, or if you do, it's probably not going to be as wonderful and fun and pleasing as, right? So again, we have this huge similarity. I'm so grateful to hear you talk about vibrational state because it's true.
Yes, it's everything.
It is
It's
everything.
everything. And so because I lost the victim vibe, or I think I lost it, I'm pretty sure I just don't resonate with it anymore.
I do either.
Uh, my life is completely different. I like it a lot more.
Me too. Like, people poo-poo things like the law of attraction and all that, but I believe it is a universal truth that what you sustain as your vibrational focus is what you're going to view the reality as, and that creates your reality. Because what we call reality is the mirror of the inner self.
Yes, right. And
So
this is what I do with my
that's
clients.
fun.
I help them restructure their personal energetic matrix so they
Mhm.
can create the kind of reality that they want, because this is our blueprint. And so if you know that you can adjust your blueprint, your energetic blueprint, then I help them do it. And
Yeah.
then it happens.
Well, you're basically showing them that they are unlimited, which they are.
Yeah,
We've just been taught that we're not. And I
right.
think that's another thing that having this contact experience is about. They really want to help us understand that we are unlimited and that we don't have to be under the auspices or the slavery of, other people who want us to be small,
That's
who want
right.
us to be small.
Exactly. That's one of the main messages,
Yeah.
that self-autonomy,
Yeah.
and we don't have to be under the big thumb, and we're all one. That's the number one message, that
That's number one.
because we're all one, we're all one. And when you think about it, there is no hierarchy in one.
Mm-mm.
We keep wanting to create hierarchy even in this thought of one. And I'm like, what are we doing? There's like no hierarchy. It's
There's
more.
no, really, I've heard you speak about this before, and this is why I love you so much, is because this is the core essence of who I am and the work that I do. In fact, we were talking about that phrase in Lakesh that I always say to people at the end of everything. In Lakesh was given to the Mayan people. At least that's what my shaman and my shaman mentor many years ago in Mexico told me, that the Mayans people were seeded here by Pleiadian beings, and that they were placed, in a place where it was pretty tribal and very territorial. So if they were walking through the forest and they saw somebody from another tribe, well, they would try to kill each other because it's about territory. And they were given this salute in Lakesh, which means I'm another you. And they were told, any person that you see, whether it's in your village or it's out here or, near the ocean or whatever, before you say anything or take any action, bow and say in Lakesh. And they will feel that vibration. It means I'm another you. Well, if you're another me, I don't want to attack you, and you can't attack me, right?
That's right.
So I love it, and I think our work is so similar in that we are trying to get people to understand, and with the help of these beings who are other versions of us, I believe.
Yeah, and that is one of the messages that I was given when, in the middle of the day, I was in my living room, and this was in 2019, and these two light beings showed up, and they were really tall and really beautiful, and they were constantly moving. They were like constantly moving kaleidoscopes of blues
Ooh.
and silvers, and every now and then there'd be like a spring green that would just pop up right here. And I'm like blinking and I'm blinking. I actually took a picture, but they didn't show up in the picture. And we start talking, and I was writing down everything that they said. And first of all, the first thing I felt was so much love. I had never felt that kind of love before. It's more than the love from your mother, if you can imagine. It's more.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. And then they said to me, when you look into our eyes, you look into yours. And I was exactly.
There's that feeling again. Woof.
And they started telling me about our DNA activation, why we would want to. They told me about Tesla and Disney and Tchaikovsky, three of my favorite men ever since I was a little girl, and how Tesla and Disney had met. And all three of those men were channelers. They were completely connected. Even we
Absolutely.
didn't admit it or not, they were connected. And all of their work was done through their channeling and their connection. And that when you listen to Tchaikovsky music, which has always been my favorite, it's a DNA activator.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So Disney's movie Fantasia is Tchaikovsky music. It's not a cartoon.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That
It's,
movie Fantasia is a DNA activator, and Disney knew.
oh man. You know what? I've never heard anybody describe that way, but I so resonate with it. And now, after this, probably tonight, I'm going to watch Fantasia again. I haven't seen it for decades. But I remember it being the thing that sent me when I was a child. You know, it was just
So
so, yeah, wow. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And we get all kinds of DNA activations coming in, and especially now that our collective vibrational state is starting to come up, so many people are channeling. So many people are doing psi work professionally. So many people are hosting groups to help other people come on, to pull them up to the vibrational state. And I think it's because as we do, it gains more power, and it has more pull, it has more draw, doesn't it? It's like a magnet. And I think we're in the most exciting of times. We
I,
really are.
I agree.
But I love reading about your work, these soul sessions, because what you do is you literally help people see their alignment with their true self.
Mhm.
And you help them get rid of that baggage, which is what I do too. We just do it, and we just call it different things basically. But that's what we were taken to these school sessions for, I think, when we were little kids, and I continue to be visited. I mean, I'm visited all the time, and I'm still learning, and I know you're still learning. You're just probably just getting download after download after download. um, I wanted to ask you, because we were talking off record about, uh, beauty and the human body and everything. You are so young looking and so gorgeous. Do you think that having that vibrational, energetic flow through you and having these experiences has something to do with that? I know it affects the DNA. I think it either reprograms the DNA or it turns on the latent switches that have been on, sleep mode for a while. But the physical, when I look at people who are highly connected like you, your physical being is completely different than other humans.
Really?
I,
I
I,
can see that.
well, we don't see it in ourselves, I don't think, but
Wrinkles and the this and the that, and yeah, I don't really see that. Like I look in the mirror, I'm like, God, I look older than what I really am. That's what I see.
Well, that's what I see too. It just
And you
caught up a
don't.
few
So
years ago, but it's so weird, and a self-perception is a liar anyway. But, and we can joke about it all we want, but do you think that having these, and maybe coming into it consciously now, having these conscious contact experiences with these higher or these highly advanced beings or versions of ourselves or whatever you want to call them, do you think that it enhances the way our DNA
yeah,
works?
absolutely. So even if I don't think I look younger, I definitely feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to start new careers. I'm not afraid to start new projects at this age where a lot of people are thinking about their retirement.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just turned 60.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I can't
There's
even believe it.
there's something about that number. Every time I say 60, my mouth waters
It's
because
so funny
and then I see like a really ripe peach or like a
because you're juicy at 60.
that's what it feels like when I say 60. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
I
gosh, I was
like it.
unstoppable when I was 60. I loved 60.
Yeah, I never thought I would be, back when I was 40, I didn't think 60 would be this, but it is. And I'm learning now that our society really doesn't even care about the number anymore, really. Less and less and less about the number because we're breaking all the
All right.
stereotypes.
Well, and I believe we're breaking the stereotypes because those are divisive mechanisms. Up till now, humans have labeled everything, and it's discriminatory. That's why you see all the different gender fragmentations now, and everybody's up in an uproar about all the changes that are happening, but they're happening for a good reason because we're accelerating in our evolvement.
Yes, and
We're
we're doing
letting all of that.
purging. Yeah. So I just tell people so we're just vomiting. So we're
Yes.
vomiting the darkness. And so we have to see the darkness and then it has to come out. And so there's going to be a lot more coming out. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's going to be a lot more darkness that we're going to see, and that has to be illuminated and eliminated. And we're
Yeah.
in the process of that. I think all of this is good. Just like, yeah, I don't think we're going downwards. I think we're going upwards.
Well, I know I am. I know that that's what my choice, and I think it's everybody's choice. I think there will be some people who decide to stay back for a while because they're not finished with this version. But I definitely am like all systems go. Let's go as high as we can go. I've seen it. I've been there. I remember it. I want to make it my focus. And as I make it my focus, anybody else who wants to come along, I want that for them too. I
Yes.
think that's what we're here to do. So, but we're getting off into real philosophical stuff, which I love. But I want to talk some more about the things that brought you to this, like your any experiences or I don't know. Again, we can flow however you want, but the people who don't know you may want to hear a little bit more about, you know, your interactions with these beings. And by the way, you have had some interactions that weren't so fun. You and I both have had this, the Millab stuff happening. Do you want to speak to that, or should we give it any more energy? I just want people to know that it's part of the experience. You have to keep your vibrational state high.
Okay, so you can see how uncomfortable I get when you bring up
Yes,
Miller.
I do. You're rocking and almost like a little kid.
Yeah, and my insides are going, and it's very important. And I have 5 or 6 conscious memories. And I would say one is absolutely horrendous, another one is bad, and then the rest are neutral.
Okay.
Never had, no one has a good one. No one
No.
said, "Oh, that was lovely." It's never like that. But I want to get more and more comfortable talking about it. So thank you for bringing it up, Debs, because a lot of people are having millabs, and it's difficult for everybody. And
Yes.
so I kind of saved the millab stuff my story of MILAB kind of for the end until I was ready to talk about it. And I am ready to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about it. Yeah. So,
I don't like talking about it either, but what I can say is, at least from my perspective, again, we're talking about vibrational, um, sustained vibrational focus and state. If you are in a high vibrational state and these factions try to come and influence you or intimidate you, it's almost laughable. And I've told a story many times. I'm not going to do it here, but I will say I've had literally been accosted by, the black helicopters and men in black trying to get me to get in their vehicle and all of this while on a run in the middle of Kansas City in broad daylight while I was on the phone talking to one of my best friends in Holland about a big CE5 event that we were trying to plan. And immediately, here come the helicopters, too low for legal flight, and then the big black vehicle comes up and blocks my way as I'm running down a boulevard, and a man comes out and says, "Can we give you a ride, ma'am?" And she's freaking out on the other end. She's like, "Oh my gosh, are there other people around?" And I just laughed. I was like, "This is hilarious." And I just laughed. I said, "Oh no, thank you. I'm on a run for exercise. Have a good day." And I just ran behind the vehicle and kept running. And they followed me back home and encircled my neighborhood for hours. And then all my tech went down. And, so that was just one thing. But the funny thing is it's almost like, uh, trying to shoot out a giant jet with a BB gun. That's what it feels like. And it makes me laugh.
okay. This is actually incredible that you mentioned this because, wow, this is this is really fascinating. And I'll tell you why. I'm about to tell you my worst MILAB story, the one that I have the most difficult talking about because it's so zany. It's just a zany story. And it's a conscious memory.
Yeah.
My very first MILAB memory or experience happened the night that I talked with Kathleen Marden for the first time. And my landline went dead. And then I had a MILAB experience that night. She's a really good friend of mine now, but that's what happened the first time I talked to Kathy Marden. She's the one that helped me with my exes and deal with everything.
She's so amazing.
My X marks. Yeah. And all right, so I am in this room and I've been in this room before and I'm sitting in a chair where there's a table in front of me and I'm looking into the room across from me and we're divided by a big glass window, huge glass window. So I can see into the other room, they can see me sitting in this chair. I always have these young men around me. They look young, 20, 30s, really short hair, like khaki colored clothes, like really no emotion whatsoever. And so there's always one standing right next to me. So there's one standing next to me. And they have me look into this other room. Oh, I'm going to cry. And now this could be it could have been faked. It could be holograms. It could be screen memories. I don't know. But whatever it is, these organizations know how much pain you can take and what would cause you the most pain. Yeah. They know
your cracks in your armor.
Yes.
They certainly do.
So I'm looking into the other room and there's a bunch of short grays in there, little grays.
Mm-hmm.
And one of these young men walks in there with a gun and he puts it to the head of one of the little grays. And this man is saying to me, "Do it. We want you to do it." Meaning they wanted me to do something psychic.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but I refused to do it because I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
People were going to die. So I'm not doing it. And so as this gray is looking at me, he shoots it in the head. And I lose it. And so he goes to the next one and he says, "Do it." And I'm like, "I can't." And I shoot it in the head. Right, several of them. And I'm like losing my mind. And so then they come into where I am, and the man's like, "Do it." And then they put the gun to my head. I'm like, I can't. And so here's the gun. And I just closed my eyes and I said, I love you.
Oh,
And
yes. That's the secret remedy.
I waited and nothing happened. And I
Yeah.
opened my eyes and I looked at them and I could, like, this telepathic knowing came.
Mm.
They were thinking, oh, if we
Can't
can't
do anything.
even use her life against her, then she's no good. Like, we can't get anything out of her. And I don't have a conscious memory of a Millab after that.
They left you alone probably just because you're not they're not able to get in.
I
And
was really willing to die.
I
And it
don't blame you. And I would have been the same, and I
shocks
have
me to
been the
say
same.
that. It shocks me to say that because if someone had said that to me, in my Sev life, oh, if someone put a gun to your head and told you to do something psychic and you refused, they would kill you. What would you do? I'd be like, I'd do something psychic. But in this case, it was like, no.
No. And I think you've brought up the most key element of this kind of thing for people who are listening to this, who have these experiences like what Sev's talking about, or maybe even have the inkling that you have, but you don't remember them, but you feel really afraid of it. Love is the thing. Unconditional love. You have to send unconditional love to them because here's the thing. You're so smart. You know there is no death. You know there is no death. And so, yeah, your body, what I call your spacesuit, might might no longer be working, but your soul never stops. And so they cannot take that away from you. And if you decide to come back in an instant and take another spacesuit, well, that's what you're going to do because you're all powerful and unlimited. So you were so wise. Your soul was telling you, just send love and they'll go away, you know? And I think it's a very important message to give people. You always have the power to say no. You always have a choice. But don't let your choices be informed by indoctrinated fear. And always turn to love. And I've taken so much flack, and I know you have too, for saying you have to love.
Oh, of
You
course.
have to love. Because people have been brainwashed into believing being a person of love and peace is a weakness in our society. But it's not. It's the most powerful thing. And I think that's what these beings have also been trying to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Yes.
is the biggest gift, you know? But I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And
Well,
uh,
um, thank you for letting me tell you and your listeners and your viewers. And thank you for dealing with it in such a kind and sensitive way. And
well, it breaks my heart that you had to see that, that they actually
well,
went through with that.
yeah, they do get us and we're debriefed because the very first time that when I talked to Kathleen Marden that afternoon and that night,
Yeah.
I was in like in a governmental office. I was down. I remember stairs coming down, and once
Mhm.
again there was that guy next to me, and we're looking at a poster, and I actually drew it, and it was the flight path of a UFO. And there
Mm.
were all these scientific and mathematical equations. I have a biology pre-med degree from Loyola. I
Right.
love science and biology, and I love to mix it in with my spiritual work. I think it's very important, and it goes. So I'm looking at this, and he turns to me and he says, "When does the spaceship attain its K point?"
Oh
And
yeah,
then
so dang specific. How many people would know the answer to that?
I don't know.
You
So,
know?
and then I don't remember anything else. And so because of my education, I'm like the K point. I should have learned about the K point in science and chemistry or something. I don't remember it. So I googled it, and it's a real thing. And
Yeah.
one time I heard them mention the K point when I was watching the Winter Olympics and the ski jumping.
Yeah.
And the commentator mentioned that skier's K point. So I
Yeah.
think it's when it lands. I guess when it goes to its highest point and lands or something. I'm not sure. Uh,
Yeah.
and I also mentioned it to Grant Cameron, and Grant Cameron sent me this article about an experiencer who was with the Greys, and the Greys were teaching her about the K point.
Yeah.
So
So
that's a neutral one. That's a neutral one. I've had some neutral ones, but they always want information. They always want information.
I know, and they try to frighten you into giving information. I mean, most of the stuff that have happened to me are just it's like baby intimidation, or trying to coerce. And but yet I work with people who you'd be shocked at some of the people, well, you probably have too, of who have, were raised in places like Montauk and done horrible things to get them to, be powerful psi soldiers, if you will. And then they start, and they wipe their memories. And then as they get older, you can't repress. It's like putting a spring down, you can't push a spring down for very long before it gets inertia and boings back. So they start having these weird little memories and they want to know what it is. And I'll be darned, there's another one, and or people in the secret space program and things like that. But a lot of the things that they describe to me are things that I remember, and I'm like, but it didn't affect me that bad because I learned at a very young age, you have to love them. And if you love them, it's like a force field. They can aim it at you and they can threaten you, but they can't really hurt you with it. So I don't know.
I like that. Did you just say love is a force field?
Yeah.
I love it. I'm writing that down.
Yeah. I do. I'll send you something after this. It's a little
Good.
guided meditation I do with a little quantum hypnosis thing. I call it the impermeable bubble of love and light. And I first started it a bazillion years ago, teaching it to my yoga students at the end of a yoga class. When you're feeling all good and you're in Shavasana and you're so open, you're susceptible, then I give them this tool. And really, it's just envisioning a big bubble, and it's an impermeable bubble, and you fill it with all your greatest feelings of love, your memories, your hopes, your dreams, your wishes, the highest vibrational stuff you can, and it powers it. And not only does it repel anything that is not near its frequency or at or above its frequency, it repels it. It transmits that out to everywhere. But if someone is trying to psychically or physically attack you, it comes up against that bubble, that energetic bubble, and it's affected by it. And it bounces back and hits the person it came from. So it's actually you're all the time sending this energy, even subconsciously when you're not even thinking about it. You can get really good about it. And you can't be harmed,
Yeah, that is such a good point, and it's so important because I had an encounter with what I call an astral men in black.
Mm.
It was very scary. It was attached to someone who was visiting me, and through that encounter, I stood my ground. What happened was I had a friend come and she visited me for the first time, and she was staying a few nights. So it was our first night, and she was in the guest room across from my bedroom. And I woke up in the middle of the night because she was coming into my bed. I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I'm scared." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I turned around because I felt something behind me. And then right at the foot of my bed was this tall black being, blacker than the room, with like a fedora hat, and the suit and everything was solid black. And energy came out of it and went right into me. And it was like tentacles, like grabbing me. And it felt like it was pulling out my essence. Like it felt like it was pulling out me.
Oh, wow.
And I fought for my life. It was an energetic battle for my life. And
Yeah.
I just said, "Nope, you can't do this. Nope, you got to go. Nope, you're not going to win. Nope, you're wasting your time." I was relentless, and it went away. And so I like to tell that story to remind people you're in control.
Yeah.
People forget, many people would think that being is stronger and that it can take you like that. I don't know what would have happened if I let it infiltrate me. I don't know what would have become of me.
I don't either.
It was I didn't realize it at the time that it was attached to my friend. So the next morning, we wake up and we're having coffee. I said, "Did anything weird happen to you last night?" She goes, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, you go first." She goes, "Well, I woke up in the middle of the night and I looked out your window and it was right over the water of the house. Her view was right over the water. She's looking at the sky and she sees a hologram of Jesus Christ.
Oh,
And
wow.
here's in her head, we can do this, you know. We can put anything
Um,
in the sky and fool you. At the same
mm,
time, this astral man in black is trying to get me.
grab you.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I'm like, so she tells me that. I said, okay, that's very interesting. It kind of falls in line with what we hear about the false flag and all those possible things.
Project Bluebeam and
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So I told her, okay, well, do you remember coming into my room in the middle of the night and getting into the bed? She goes, no, I did not do that. And I said, no, you did. You did it because I was wide awake. And she goes, nope, I didn't do it. I'm like, okay. And then I told her about this being that wanted to like take over my body. And then we both looked at each other and we're like, okay, all right, let's just not talk about it anymore. Let's go do something. And I realized several days later that that being was attached to her. And the reason I think that was because she was a spiritual teacher, but she got really wrapped up in QAnon
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the way down that, you know, Hillary eats babies or
Maybe.
whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that is the most fearful low vibe that there is.
Yeah.
And so that's
Disgusting.
why I believe that that entity was with her.
Open the door for her. Yeah.
She didn't used to be like that, but that's what happened. And you know, we take our peeps with us wherever we go. We take all our astral friends with us.
Oh, yes. Yes. No, I agree. But I'm glad that you're so perceptive to see that, and my hope and wish and prayer for her and others like her is that she realizes there's a correlation and starts getting more attracted to the higher vibrational things. But
I
if
don't
it's
know
not,
because we're not friends anymore.
yeah.
And I never told her this. I never told her that I thought it was attached to her. So I have no idea.
Well, and the reason why you're no longer friends is, your vibrational states are so discoherent that they repel each other, and when that happens, people fall out of your life. And it's sad because we want to love the people we love and we want everybody to be happy together. But everybody, I believe anyway, and maybe you don't buy into this, but I believe people come into lives with an agenda or a project or a purpose. And maybe hers is to experience some of this lower vibe stuff for learning. I think it's all for learning, you know? And so we can't try to, I think this is where we as spiritual people who want to help others sometimes go wrong because we want to take everybody with us on our high vibe journey, right? Because we know we have the truth. Well, we don't. And the main truth is they have their own thing that they're here for. They made that decision before they came in. And we need to let them have their experience. We can't judge anyone. We can't force anyone. We should not try to coerce or preach to anyone. We should just, if there's anything I think that these beings have been trying to teach me over the course of this life, at least, is to accept each other as you are and try to work with that harmoniously. And that's tall order because when you're that discoherent in your belief systems and practices and everything, well, how do you do that? I think the key is love. You just love them unconditionally. I have a lot of friends who believe in a lot of the stuff that I don't, that is very low vibe. And I'm sure they think I'm absolute nutcase for believing some of the things I do because it's a different vibrational state than they're in. But we can still find common ground and love each other because we have common interests here, here, and here. When there's no commonality in vibrational state, they just disappear. They're not even in your world anymore. I bet you couldn't find her if you tried. if she's gone down that path, and that's okay. That's where she wants to be.
Maybe
It's
she's
sad.
bounced out of it. I don't know. Is QAnon even a thing anymore?
I have no idea. I just don't even pay attention. I don't give it energy. So, um, I see the damage that's been done from factions like that, but that all was very intentional, by the way. That wasn't just
Oh
something
yeah.
that caught on. That was talk about a virus,
Yeah.
that was injected into our society. But it's okay. People want to be part of a group. That's part of being human. It's a survival mechanism. We want, when we're with a tribe, we're safer from attack, supposedly. But often nowadays the thing that holds the tribe together is fear, and that's never good. So I'd rather be a hermit if that's what all the tribes are about. So you spoke a lot about the Milab stuff, and you've talked about your early experiences with your space brother that you love so much. Do you feel like you have the energy to talk about your Roswell experience? Because I think it's very unique and it's very important. I love the way you come at it because you stay neutral for the most part about it, and it's important. Could
Yeah.
you talk about it a little bit?
Uh, this was 2016. So I hadn't moved to North Carolina yet. I hadn't come out yet to myself. I was still in complete hiding. And
Mm-hmm.
I was dating someone at the time. We were living on Capitol Hill, and he decided to take an early retirement. He worked with uh, Navy. He was a manager for this brand new missile defense system that was being built on the island of Kauai in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Before he retired, they're like, "You want to go spend a year in Kauai?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I spent that year going back and forth between our
Nice.
townhouse and Kauai. And so this was when I was back in Capitol Hill, and he calls me. This was up out of the blue. And he says, "I have to go to White Sands in New Mexico. You want to go with me? I'll take you to Roswell." I was like, "What?" Because I'd been wanting, oh my gosh, I'd heard about it since I was a little
Like,
girl.
heck yeah.
Out of nowhere. I'm like, yeah. So I fly to El Paso. He picks me up. He takes me to White Sands, the missile range. Have you been to White Sands at all? The
Yeah.
sands?
Yeah.
Have you
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
been?
White Sands itself is fantastic. What?
Itself,
Yeah.
without
What? Yeah. Without the missile base. The missile base.
So first we went to that missile base, and as soon as we pulled up to it, I wanted to get the heck out of there.
I
Like
don't
all
think.
my hair went like zzz, and I was like, oh my God, this is not a good place. It's located at the base of this big black mountain. And in my mind's eye, I just kept seeing hallways and rooms under the ground and just
Mhm.
nefarious things happening. And he wanted to show it to me. And so we went through the museum and we did everything. Finally, we were done. I ran to the car. I'm like, I'm never coming back here again. And
Mm.
so we go off to Roswell. We go sledding in the gypsum sands and white sands.
So cool.
So we go to Roswell, we go to the museum, and we go to the hotel. And we're both really, really tired. So he goes to the bathroom, and I'm sitting on the bed and I'm watching TV. And I think to myself, I wish that show, People of Earth, would come on.
Love that show.
It was only on for 2 seasons, I
I
think.
know.
So at that point, I knew it was over. I knew it wasn't going to be on. And so he came out of the bathroom, and I stopped the TV on a commercial. He said what he had to say, finished. I turned the TV back on. I didn't even change the channel. And poof, People of Earth comes on. Wow. And he had never seen it before. So we watched it, we laughed, and then we went to bed. The next thing I know, my eyes ding pop open, and the room is pitch black. Like I can't even see my hand in front of my face. And I hear footsteps on the rug, and I feel him, my ex, get into the bed. And I think to myself, why was he sitting on the couch? Was it because of the aliens? And I go back
Oh
to
my gosh.
So then I wake up the next morning. He's in the shower. I'm sitting in the bed. I'm like, why did I think he was sitting on the couch? Because he never gets up in the middle of the night and sits on the couch ever.
Yeah.
And why did I think it was aliens? And then all of a sudden, Debs, this huge gush of information, download of knowing, all kinds of visual stuff. And that night, I was with a group of Greys, and they were talking to me about a book that I was writing back then. They wanted me to write another book, and I was like, "Who the hell are you to tell me what to do or what kind of book to write?" Because, I was still very afraid of them. And then they gave me all this information about the hybridization program. And I didn't know any of this when I went to bed that night, none of it. And so they told me there is indeed one between humans and Greys. The Greys have lost their abilities to be empathetic and sympathetic, so you die out. They're picking humans to slice and dice and our DNA with theirs. And for the most part, generally speaking, they're picking humans who are very loving and empathetic and sympathetic, that wear their hearts on their sleeve, humans that have pretty strong psi abilities.
Yeah.
Intelligent humans. And so the beings that they're making are extremely smart, extremely loving, extremely psychic. And that there was a worry in the galaxies, because there's billions of these embryos.
Yeah.
What if a lower vibrational entity or organization got a hold of all these billions of embryos? Would they turn them into killing machines?
Yeah.
And I was told these beings are too loving. They would be horrible killing machines. That's not going to happen.
It'll fail.
Yes.
Like putting a gun to your head as a, right?
Yeah.
So,
They said, so these billions of embryos will be used to reseed Earth if we annihilate ourselves. And we've stepped on the path, but it's not too late. We could turn around and get off the path right now, but we are on the path of annihilation. But it's not too late. That's what they kept saying.
No, it's what mine don't have a name, but I asked for a name that we could use because they were coming through me in channeling so much. And they said, you can call us the star teachers or the teachers. So the teachers say that we do accomplish moving up in the cosmic food chain. We don't self-annihilate, but we come so close to catastrophic self-annihilation. And that scares us so badly that we finally figure out how to work with each other. And they say that they're us on a higher level, more highly advanced level, and they thank us and they call us their future ancestors because they say what we do now affects the fact that, that we evolve and eventually become them. So this goes right in line with that. I mean,
yeah. So yes, it does. And it's even more complex. I mean, it's so complex that I just feel like we're making it really simple. It's more than this. I can feel that it's more than this, but I don't know what it is. So I have all these realizations, downloads, visuals, and I'm a little stunned. I'm sitting on the bed and he comes out of the bathroom. And I ask him, did anything weird happen last night? He goes, oh, yeah. Now, he is very, very, very logical. And so I said, what happened? And he goes, well, I don't really even know how to describe this because this has never happened to me in my whole entire life. But there was something in this room and it was staring at us and I couldn't find it. And I kept getting out of bed to find it and I couldn't. And I finally gave up and I just sat on the couch. And because we're being stared at, I just gave up. And I watched you and you were flipping and turning and turning and turning on the bed. I thought you were awake. And so I told him what I remembered, and we were both freaked out, both very freaked out. I told myself when I go back to Capitol Hill, I'll be better. But when I went to Capitol Hill, I was not better. I was really worried. I couldn't get it out of my mind. I didn't want my clients to know I was talking with aliens. That was like a big no-no. And I sat with it for a few months. And finally, I had to confide in someone. So I confided in a good girlfriend. And she's like, oh, I know someone who does regression therapy and specializes in ET contact. She's 3 hours from you, but she would be good. I'm like, I'm going. So I told my ex, we're going to go 3 hours one way so I can do this and find out what's going on. So he went with me. He wrote everything down. He was in it with me. I'm really grateful for that. And I actually dedicate an entire chapter in my book to that session.
Yeah. And
Almost
it's why I wanted you to talk about it because it's so powerful.
yeah.
It's so powerful. But as you said, words don't describe what this really means or even how you felt. But there's way more to this project, if you will, than either you or I know. It's far more global, just cosmically reaching, I think. It affects everything. Because again, we're all one. Everything we do affects everything else. But the hybridization program it's not something to be feared or freaked out about. It's different, but look at what we do as scientists here on our planet. Think about what we do. Even just the most benevolent things, like we want to track and care for a species that's almost going extinct. So what do? We capture them without explaining what's happening. We drug them usually. We put tags in their ears and on their legs or whatever. We might even take biopsies or whatever. We do all kinds of things. And then if they're lucky, we take them back and put them back in their environment. Well, what does that sound like?
Yeah.
And we never explain to them what we're doing. And our intentions are good. We want to help them flourish, and so we're monitoring them, i.e. implants or whatever. So what goes around comes around. Why are we afraid that someone else who has more knowledge than us and who, it's reverse. They want to keep the species flourishing, but they want to keep their species flourishing. They're us on another level. And they took a turn that didn't work out quite well. They're not malevolent. I've never met one that was malevolent.
Gray.
But gray. Never have met a malevolent gray. I've met some that are very sterile, kind of neutral.
Oh, very, yeah. They can be neutral and they can be caring. I've seen 3, tall, medium, and short.
Yeah.
And so it was explained to me in a MILAB.
Mm-hmm.
I was in that room again when I was looking into the room across from me, and they brought in this really tall gray, and they said, this is the original. And then they brought in a shorter one, and they said, this is a hybrid of the original. Then they brought in the shortest one. They said, this is the hybrid of the original. And with each one, sentience decreases.
Ah, I see. And probably emotional function and so forth. So
it's the littlest ones that are the robotic ones that are here to take samples, put an X on my tush, maybe, those. Yeah.
Back to the X on your tush. What do you think that's about?
Okay, so that's complicated. So this happened in 2017 when I moved here. It happened the second night that I moved here. I had this X put on my left tush, and then 9 days later on my right tush. And that one was accompanied with, once again, I woke up in my bedroom like ding. And then I had this gush of a memory where I was on this bed in this room, and I felt paralyzed. I was on my side, and I couldn't move my arms and I couldn't move my legs. And there was hardly any furniture in the room. It was dimly lit. But I knew I was on the moon, and I had never known that before. And I knew there was something behind me. So I was able, let me find the picture, because I drew the picture of the gray that was standing behind me. I was able to move my neck. So there was this gray that was standing right behind me, and he was literally right here.
Mm-hmm.
He did something to my back. And so we locked eyes. And I describe it as looking into two pools of black oil.
Oh, very familiar.
There
Yes.
was no telepathic communication. So in the past, there was always telepathic communication. So there was nothing. So that scared me even more.
Yeah.
When we can't feel something from something, we get really scared because it's like, is this an axe murderer? Because, you know,
Yeah.
we're used to feeling
Especially
something.
you and I, when we sense other people, it's a great tool.
Yes. Yeah. So I turn my head back around. Ding, I'm in my room. And I get out of bed and I go downstairs. And he always got up first, but this time he didn't. And I'm waiting for him. So this is the second X. I don't know what's there yet, but I'm waiting for him to wake up to look at it. For some reason, I would not go look in the mirror. I don't know why. I was just waiting for him to wake up and look at it. And he comes downstairs and I asked him, did anything weird happen last night? No. Was I gone at all? No. I'm like, all right, well, this is what happened. Would you look at my tush again? So he did, and there was another X there directly across from the first one, like they were right across from each other on the right cheek. And so he was stunned. I was stunned. And I had an existential crisis because in that moment, I realized, oh my God, my lifetime of ET contact is real. What does that mean? This is not a dream. A dream doesn't put red X marks on my back. This is real. Then who am I?
Yeah.
Who are you? Who are we? What are we doing? What do they want with me? Why are they messing with me? I knew nothing. I knew nothing. I was like floating in this world of nothing.
Wow.
And I was very afraid, even because I knew nothing. And I started to cry. And he said, how can I help you? And I'm like, I don't know how you can help me. So I calmed myself down and I declared I need help. And that was the first time in my life that I declared that I needed help, really. And I didn't know who was going to help me, though, because I didn't know anything about the UFO world. I didn't know there were people out there helping experiencers because I didn't know what MUFON was. I knew nothing. I wanted to know nothing. So I can't come into this world like when I wrote my book, I came from knowing nothing. And a few months later, I was watching Unacknowledged by Dr. Stephen Greer. And when it was over, it lit something inside of me. So I went to my computer and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm going to send a picture of this X to somebody, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh. And I heard in my head, MUFON. I'm like, what is that? So I Google it and I'm like, oh my God, it's a real thing. Mutual UFO Network, you know, the biggest research organization UFO related in the world.
Yeah.
And I saw a picture of Kathleen Marden.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Like, she's the one, she's going to help me. So I emailed her and I sent her a picture of the X and she responded right away. And a few days later, she Skyped with me for an hour and a half and changed my life. Changed my life.
She's
And
so
because of that, yes. So she's my mentor. She's also become my friend. And because of her, I now help experiencers because I know what it feels like to be transformed and come out on the other side. And you can only do it by changing your perspective. Because if you stay in the victim vibe, you are not going to heal your ET contact. It's impossible. You have to step out of victim vibe. So when you do that, what's so beautiful about it is, you know this, when
Yes.
you step out of the victim vibe in order to understand your ET contact, you're also stepping out of the victim vibe as a human being. Your life completely
It's all
changes.
connected. Yeah.
Yes.
It is. Everything starts to fall in place. Earlier, you were talking about our mutual friend John Yost, and God rest his soul. He's passed away just a few months ago, but that was the why we made that movie, Alien Abduction Answers. That was his path. That was the same path. He felt victimized, and he was in terror his whole life, and he lied about it, which made him feel even worse until he was able to see it for real and get a grasp of what it was all about and actually feel the love too. Once he did, everything started falling into place. I mean, everything. It was like he was on fire with this purpose. And I mean, we were working on 2 subsequent films after that film when he got sick. And what's funny is, I shouldn't say funny, what is interesting is that even though he is no longer in the body, he's still directing all of this work. He said the mission's still on and you still have to work, and he's working with other people. And so I dare say he's probably working with you, trying to get people to lift their vibrational state so that they can have a better perceptive ability about what's happening, so that we can all come up in our vibrational state and move forward. Yeah. The main message was for him was, you have to love each other, you have to love your planet, you have to love yourself, and you have to take care of all of it, and you have to live harmoniously. And then really good things will happen. So I love that. I love your bravery, and I love that you actually listen to your internal messages. I mean, who gets the word MUFON in their head out of the blue and does anything about it, But now look at you. You're aren't you? You're on the ERT team, the experiencers team. You help others. You help others in your work, in your soul purpose sessions.
The state director for North Carolina for MUFON.
Yeah, for MUFON. Yeah, and this is all in just the last few years.
Yeah, I joined MUFON in 2020 as a field investigator.
Unbelievable.
Things have happened pretty quickly, but I also had a lot of support from some wonderful women within MUFON that have held my hand and have supported me the whole way, like Kathleen Marden and Denise Stoner and Terry Ling. She's on the board. And when I felt them encircling me, like I could feel it. They're like, yeah, come on, Sev, come on in MUFON and we'll help you, come on. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And it's the best decision I've ever made. It was good. Well, coming out was the best decision I've ever made, and then joining MUFON. And in fact, Earl Grey Anderson and I have been chosen to be the new hosts for MUFON Contact Radio. Our first episode is airing April 4th.
On KGRA, which is worldwide.
It in other places too.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. I'm so excited for the 2. When you told me that a few weeks ago, I'm like, oh, you guys are going to make such a tremendous team together. But that's really going to blow things open wide.
Guess who our first guest is?
Who?
Kathleen Marden. Kathleen Marden.
Of course, why not?
Yeah, because she is Earl's mentor and she's my mentor.
Oh my gosh. I hope to meet her someday. I love her so much. She's amazing. So, and I don't know, I'm so busy already, but I've been really getting the urge to write and ask if I could, offer my services on the ERT. I just don't know. We'll see. But, it's just, that's why we're here. We're here to help people and help them unravel all of this craziness. Like me, you're into the quantum reality, and that everything is consciousness. And so when we zoom out and look at things from that infinite quantum field and realize that it is all connected and all important, every piece of it is important, even the tiniest ones, even the ugly ones. The things that we think are horrible, they're still important. They all fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, right? If you take one piece out, the puzzle falls apart. So I love you for the work that you do. And I love it that you have such a scientific background too, because that makes it,
I love talking about quantum physics and manifestation, because they're the same thing.
Yeah, they truly are. Again, a soul sister. Wow, it's just so incredible. Well, do you have, excuse me, I'm getting choked up because I love you so much. We've talked about a lot of things. Do you have anything that kind of ties it all together, or any final words of wisdom for our listeners? And, first of all, I want to say, get in touch with her. Let's talk about first how to get in touch with you. And of course, it'll be in the description. It'll be at the end credits. But just so they hear it verbally, because some people are more audient than others.
Thank you. I have a website, planetsev.com, and I have a planet and star system named after me in the Star Wars galactic system, the
I
Sev
love
Tok star system. And my YouTube channel, Alien Spirit with Sev, and on there I have lots of videos, but I created three specific videos to help you channel, to help you connect with otherworldly beings, whatever kind of being that you want. And the beginning of the video explains how to raise your frequency. And then at the end, I created a meditation with my voice and high vibe music to take you there. And they're getting really good responses. People are making connections with dead people, ETs, spirit guides, all kinds of beings. Excuse me. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and some TV shows. I just came back from LA.
Mm-hmm.
Filmed a show on what's a really popular show on the History Channel. I can't say what it is yet.
Yeah.
I'm also about to appear on another History Channel show called The Proof is Out There, and on Gaia TV with George Noory, Beyond Belief, and also in a Canadian documentary with Terry Lovelace. I have a butt double there.
I love it. How many people can say they have a butt double? It's so funny.
And my butt double's name is Kat, which is so perfect. Like, yeah. Isn't that insane?
Oh my gosh.
No, when I saw that, I couldn't believe it. I'm a dog person too. I love all animals, but yeah.
That's so funny.
But I do identify with Black Panthers. And also, if you're an experiencer looking for help, you can contact MUFON, or you can contact me directly through my website. You just fill out this really short little form telling me what happened, and I'll respond. And I also offer private ET contact consultations to take it up to help you realize why it happened, because there's a good reason this has happened. It's not a fluke. It's not an accident. So let's get you out of the victim vibe, look at why it happened, and so you can learn and grow from it, and it can change your life in a positive way. So basically, my message to everybody is where you place your focus is what you create. So just pay attention to where you place your focus. It's really that simple.
It is. Absolutely. It's almost like you're speaking the same words I speak every day to people, and I just love it so much. Thank you for the validation, because there are days when I think, am I just,
especially now with everything that's going on and the eclipse coming and the full moon and this, I mean, this is a really potent time. If you're not strong, you can easily fall backwards right now. So I'm helping people not fall backwards. Don't fall backwards, because this is a really lush prime space. I don't know who that is.
That is so bizarre.
I have them turned off. You can go into your settings.
Yeah, I don't have them.
It still comes up. Sometimes balloons go off.
It's almost like the as my friend Jimmy Blanchett likes to call the collective of it, the intelligence. He doesn't call them ETs. He doesn't call them interdimensional. He's like the intelligence. That was the intelligence saying, "Good job. We love you." I hope the recording caught that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, but thank you. Sev, you're just an amazing person. You're so generous with your time and with your love and with your care. You're brilliant. I can't say enough about it. And it's been such a great honor to have you on the show.
I feel the same. I loved it. It was like talking to a sister.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I feel such a kinship with you. But so yeah, maybe one of these days we'll go tour Göbekli Tepe with each other. I would love that. But in the meantime, hopefully we can work together again. I keep, ever since you've started talking, I keep getting all of these messages like, there's this you can do, there's this you can do. So I'm sure they're going to be pressing us for more. I don't know, as if we can handle it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for being on Hidden Variables. You are such an amazing asset to the human race. and to future races as well. You know, with all of your involvement and with your courage too. We talked about some things that aren't as beautiful and fun today, and I think it needs to be talked about so that we can normalize a little bit more of people talking about it. It helps. It's very healing.
Mhm.
So, anything else before we let you go and have a beautiful day?
No, I had a great time. Thank you for everyone who's listening and watching.
I agree. This is what it's all about, isn't it? It's community. So again, get in touch with Sev at her website, which is planetsev.com. Is that correct?
My email is sev@planetsev.com.
Sev at planets, yeah, Sev, S-E-V, at planetsev.com. And again, we'll put all of her links and everything, all the cool juju stuff at the end of this video. But thank you once again. And my sister, I love you. Thank you for being on Hidden Variables, and we'll talk again soon. In Lakesh, I'm
Yeah.
another you.